everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hi if you're new, and welcome to my January reading wrap up, where I'm going to go through all the books that I read in January and let you know who's staying and who's going. Because normally I would keep all the books that I've read unless I really didn't like them. Going forward, I'm only going to keep them if they were like a 5-star and there's a chance that I'm going to read them again. We're going to be brutal this year, so we can do this. I can part of physical books. It's okay. I can always rebuy them or get them from the library. I can do this. So anyway, then there's no particular order here, I'll be completely honest. And there's 4 books I don't have copies of here because I might have read them by audiobook or I've returned them to the library. So I'm going to chuck them on at the end. We're going to confirm my NetGalley percentage at the end to see if that has gone up or gone down or what has happened to that. But let's dive straight in. So, first book, Dream Country by Ashay Brown. I really wanted to love this. I really did. This was a 5-star anticipated for me. Look at the cover. It sounded great. We've got the gods of sleep, dreams and nightmares. They're all siblings. There's serious sibling rivalry. There's like a massive feud that's going on. There's a lot of fantastical, mythological elements, various cultural references, and it promised to be so good, and for me it just didn't quite do it. I felt there was too much build. There were little bits that kind of dragged, and then there were bits that were glossed over, and I'm like, well, hang on, let's have another couple of pages of that, please. But the ending, I was so infuriated because I felt the ending was rushed in about the last 20-30 pages, and the ending wasn't enough for me. I wanted more detail, I wanted a proper conclusion, I wanted to know exactly what was going to happen after, and I didn't get that, and it just frustrated me. Some people, it probably wouldn't bother them. You know, if you're the kind that would just go, and they all lived happily ever after, and that's good enough for you, that's absolutely fine. This is great. For me, I want to know the ins and outs of everything. I'm nosy, okay? That's not a secret. So for me, no. So on that basis, unfortunately, Dream Country is not going to stay in my collection. We can do this. We can part with a book. Right. Next book. Oh my goodness. I don't even know how to talk about this. Bunny by Mona Howard. This was weird. That's probably the best description I can ever give this book. This was an absolute mind F. We see, I've forgotten her name, Samantha, who gets to know this clique of girls that called each other Bunny. Oh, Bunny, I love you. Oh, Bunny, you're so clever. All this kind of nonsense. And she ends up getting involved with them. But there's like magical elements in it. There's like rituals that go on. But it jumps. And I mean, the ending. What? Pardon? What just happened there? I have no idea how I feel about this. This is probably the first book I've read in a very long time that I genuinely don't know if I liked it or not, because I'm still trying to get my head around it. So on that basis, I'm going to keep it for a while, as in like a year, to see if I reread it and want to give it a bash. As it stands, I really don't know, but that's going to go over this side. Yeah, it was such a weird one. Next book, The Time Waster Letters and Duke. Hello, darling. Hello. So, this is by Robin Cooper, and who's basically a man who has too much time on his hands. Thank you, darling. I know, but I'm not just going to give you attentions. Basically, the author just wastes people's time writing them random letters to see if he gets a response, and it's very strange. So he so one's here, organised a surprise clarinet party. He contacted a children's book publisher with just completely unprintable, ridiculous book ideas. And I'll be honest, I read it in about an evening. I think it was just a couple of hours actually, and it was quite funny in places. Some of the letters were really quite funny, and then every now and then I'd sort of look at it from a work point of view and think, I'd be so pissed if someone just wasted my time like this. So I don't know. It was a good evening. Will I reread it? No. So it's going to go. You're not going to go anywhere, are you? You're going to stay and torment me now? Okay. Next book, Checkmate by Ali Hazelwood. I knew I was going to love it, and I did. It was a 5-star. I think every book that I've read from Ali Hazelwood so far has been a 5-star, and I love this. So this was centred around chess. We had Mallory, who's basically said she's not going to play chess anymore. She's had enough. Then she starts playing again. She meets Nolan, who's like the champion, and you can tell by the cover the love is happening. I liked it. It says it was YA. For me, there were sort of more adulty elements. It wasn't smackety face YA. I just loved it. I love the description. I love the build of the relationship. I liked reading about Mallory's family, that connection there, the friends as well that were sort of made along the way. And that's what I really like, I suppose, about Ali Hazelwood's writing, is that in her stories, the other relationships are always dealt with very, very well. There's a lot of realism in there. And, you know, there's a whole other world going on as well as the relationship. It's not just relationship focused the whole time. There's other elements. And I just loved it. Really loved it. So this is definitely staying. As if that was ever going to be a question. As is the next one, okay? Heartstopper Volume 5. We love Heartstopper, don't we, darling? Here we join Nick and Charlie again. It was a graphic novel. We join basically, they're looking at having to go their own independent ways. You know, we've got the staying at school versus the going to university, wanting what's best for each other, but at the same point wanting to hold each other as close as possible. And do you know what? I just love these two. I love the relationship here. And again, I love the friends, the family dynamics that go on. I think a lot of things are very well handled. A lot of, like, you know, feelings and you know, it was just, Alice Oseman is just a very, very talented author, and to portray what she does through a graphic novel, I think, is quite an incredible feat. So, next book. So next we have Legendary by Stephanie Garber. This is the sequel to Caraval that I absolutely adored, and I loved this book so much. Okay, I have to part with it because it is clearly a library book. However, did I love this more than Caraval? Quite possibly. So, but I can't give you too many spoilers. Basically, in Caraval, it's like a magic kind of game where you can either just be part of it or you can compete to have a wish granted by the head of this, like, carnival, if you like. I know I do love you, but this is a wrap up. It's not a cuddle. It's not a cuddle. So we join two sisters here, and it's, I'm going to get their names right. I'm going to have to here. Donatella and Scarlett. And basically we find out that one had made a deal with the organizer at the end of the last game for the sake of her sister, but unfortunately it's actually had quite serious consequences on her now, and she's got to fight for herself. And oh, do you know, it was just fantastic. There was like love interest in here. It was really emotional in places, and again, family dynamics. Absolutely loved it. It was just good fun. Loads of twists and turns. No idea where this book was going. Cannot wait to finish the trilogy. I just can't. I can't. It's on its way from the library. It has been requested. Right, next opinion. Controversial. Controversial. Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I did not love it. It was a 5-star anticipated for me, so I straight away ordered Ruthless Vows, the sequel, which I'm currently reading, actually. Started it today. However, it was alright. It wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad book, and I'm nosy enough that I want to read the sequel to find out what happens. I am that nosy, yes. Yes, and I love you too. It just, again, it was just missing something. So we join, oh my goodness, her name. Iris, that's the one. She is a writer for a newspaper. She's going up against Roman for this, Iris and Roman, for this position, for like a columnist. They hate each other. And anyway, Iris just starts communicating with letters in the wardrobe to this guy, ends up falling for him. But there is a war going on. She then ends up going to report on what's going on in the war, but she's still communicating with this man that she's totally falling for. And, you know, it's very predictable. I know I don't always mind that. I really, really don't always mind that. But every now and then I like a little surprise. And that just wasn't forthcoming with this. And again, it's one of those books that was like a lot of detail in some places, and then other bits really were just skated over very quickly, and then I'd have a bit that would drag for a while. And I don't know, I think a lot of people would probably class this as a cozy read, quite slow paced and just chilled. For me, maybe at the time that I read this, I was just looking for something a little bit more. Hence me reading the sequel just to see if it was me. So we're keeping it. And then once I've read the sequel, I'll make a decision on the two. Now, the first book of the year I read was Luster by Raven Leilani. This was, well, one of the first books I put on my TBR, actually. It was one of the books that was going around quite big when I first joined BookTube, and I was very excited to read it. I found it in a charity shop, and I was like, woohoo! And we join Eddie, I guess, who ends up dating this guy who's actually married, and it's meant to be sort of like her trying to fit in with this open relationship, as well as just trying to find herself as a person. She's going through a lot of stuff, and I just didn't like it. Maybe it's me. A lot of people rave about this book. They absolutely love it. For me, no, I didn't. It just bored me in places, and then I got a little bit interested, and then it dragged again, and no, it just wasn't for me, unfortunately. So this book is going. So far, we have 4 books that are leaving. 1's going back to the library. 3 will be going to the charity shop. So do you know what? It's okay. In fact, I might actually be giving them all to the library. I will see if they want them, because particularly Luster and Dream Country, because our YA section at our local library is pretty dire, I will give them first dibs. Anyway, now the books that I listen to are audio or Kindle or whatever else. What was it? So I listened to The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. This was her autobiography, and yeah, I listened to it on audiobook, and it was great. It was fun. It was very interesting. There was so much covered in it that we didn't read in the papers. It was very nice to hear her story of a lot of things, because probably me, like so many others, judged her a little bit based on those stories unfairly, and you know, it was good for her to get her point across. Then I read The Hurricane Wars by Thea Gaunson, possibly. Now this was a 2023 5-star anticipated for me. Binged the audiobook over a few days, and I truthfully, now talking to you, probably a couple of weeks later, can't remember anything about it at all. I think it was Enemies to Lovers. I think it had fantastical elements. Were there dragons? That sounds vaguely familiar, but I can't remember it. So I think on that basis, the fact that I read it less than a month ago and that book has just gone out of my head completely, maybe me giving it 3 out of 5 stars was a little bit generous, perhaps. I don't know. And I'm gutted that I can't remember it, but I wanted this wrap up to be as honest as possible. So me sitting and looking it up would have been maybe not the right thing. So yeah, not doing so well this month so far. Oh, and then this one's gone back to the library. I read Family Law by Elizabeth Acevedo. 5-star anticipated. I read The Poet X, loved it. I read Clap When You Land, loved it. Family Law, no. And I was really, really gutted, because that was on my list of books to review from NetGalley, and I just couldn't get into it. I found it very, very slow moving. So we join, I believe it's Flor and her siblings, and they kind of have gifts. So our main character can see right down to the day when somebody's going to die, and she decides she wants to have her own living wake so her community and family can all be involved. So of course then siblings are like, oh my god, she's going to die. But then they've all got stuff going on in their lives. They've got infertility battles. You've got one whose husband is an absolute knob. He's cheating on her. You've got one who's just, let's just say, a face has returned from the past, and it's kind of like thrown her world a little bit upside down. So we see all these different lives, and that's fine. But every now and then there was a sentence in another language, no translation, and I was like, give me a clue here, please. Some chapters I felt were rushed. Again, some really dragged. Most of the book dragged for me. If that book had been half the length, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But I felt it was actually a bit of a chore to read, and that is very disappointing when it's a 5-star anticipated. I was gutted. Then the last book that I read was The 12-Week Year by Brian P. Moran. This was actually recommended by the person doing work experience at Duke's Hydrotherapy. It was a short audio book. It was the importance of planning in a specific way rather than look at the year as a whole. Basically, cut it down a little bit and make your goals maybe more to a deadline. Plan your life a little bit better. I am a planner anyway. So old Sophie, that maybe was a little bit more disorganised, probably would have got more out of the book than current Soph, who, well, I'm a little bit more organised. I'm not there yet, but I'm a little bit more organised. But yeah, let me know if you've read any of those, what you thought. As it stands then, we have got 4 physical books that are staying, and as I showed you, 4 that are going. So that's not bad. That's not bad. That's me cutting down on the physical books in my house. That's okay. NetGalley TBR unfortunately has not changed. It is still at 50%. And that is because I'd done a couple of reviews, but I had actually also requested a couple more books that I have been accepted for. So we're going to try even harder in February to bring that percentage up a little bit. Let's just, as long as it's over 50% by the end of the month, I will be happy. But we're not there yet. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a like. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one.